Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, we're going to take a little bit of a break from talking about 2024 and talk about 2023 because we know that there's these contentious elections that are happening for the Virginia state legislature that will really dictate if Virginia is going to be able to function as a red state at the state level over the next 2 years or so. But nevertheless, we also have three other major governorships that are going to be up for grabs. Republicans are poised to take at least two of them, flipping Louisiana because you have an outgoing Democrat governor there. Democrats are not putting up any serious opposition to the Republican candidate. And then you have the state of Mississippi. And even though it looked like Tate Reeves could have been in some trouble because he wasn't really all that popular a year ago, his approvals have somewhat recovered and he is expected to hold on against a fake moderate Democrat there. That leaves Kentucky, which has a Democrat who got elected for two reasons back in 2019. One of those reasons was because of his last name, because he was the son of the former popular governor, Steve Beshear, who you kind of have like a Bob Casey Sr., Bob Casey Jr. type thing going on where the father was actually more moderate than the son. And then Andy comes along and he faces an unpopular incumbent Republican, Matt Bevin, who gets completely just trounced approval rating poll after approval rating poll, barely gets by in the primary. Beshear goes out there and beats him by 5,000 votes back in 2019. So a lot of people are saying, well, Beshear is somebody who only got by partially because Bevin was so unpopular. If you put a serious candidate up against him, like somebody like a statewide official that is not unpopular, that Beshear should be able to go down. However, it doesn't really seem as if that is the case so far, sadly. And this could be another example of Republicans just not knowing what they're doing here. You have an opportunity. You have a pickup opportunity in Kentucky. This is a state that voted for Donald Trump by close to 30 points 2 times, yet still, for some reason, Andy Beshear is their governor, and his approval rating is surprisingly high for a Democrat who doesn't really govern that moderately. Obviously, he's not able to get a lot of his agenda through because Republicans have such a sizable majority in terms of the state legislature, so they can override a lot of his vetoes. A lot of his agenda is diluted, so he kind of just serves as this awkward middleman who's able to coast to decent approval ratings, and as a result, probably is not going to be in as weak of a spot as he could be in terms of his reelection bid. And this is a problem for Republicans because they also just fail to set the narrative. And it's not even really something that is necessarily 100% directed at Daniel Cameron, but Republicans at large for the past few years, they should have made an enemy out of this guy. He is a Democrat who sits in a governor's mansion in a deep red state, a very Trumpian state, a very populist state, yet this guy manages to still sit there and say all of these liberal things and talk about how he wants to give out free health care, but only for minorities and all these other things, and he supports transgender children. This is the guy that you can't make an enemy of. This is the guy that you can't take down. It's kind of sad, and it speaks volumes to how bad and incompetent that a lot of these people are regarding their messaging, and how Republicans in the media, they haven't exactly done their business against a lot of these politicians that they could easily beat, and you could actually have some better leadership in the state of Kentucky as a result. But it does seem as if we're not exactly in the best position for this race. A new poll came out, and it showed that Andy Beshear is defeating Daniel Cameron by 16 points. Now, do I think he's going to win by 16? No. Are polls always right? No. Are polls flawed in many cases? Absolutely. Is this an outlier? Yeah. But at the same time, there's other polls that have Beshear up by close to 10, so I really wouldn't be surprised if he ends up winning by 5 to 10 points. And then you see a lot of these other statewide offices go solidly Republican, like the Attorney General slot. But it's crazy to think about because the same poll shows Donald Trump is up by 30 points in the state of Kentucky. He's up by 30 points. Biden is at 26%. Andy Beshear is at 49%. And you look at the approval polls, Beshear has a positive 16 approval rating, whereas Biden has a minus 40 approval rating. Now, here's the deal. A lot of people are going to say that Donald Trump is responsible for Cameron losing. These people are deranged. The people that hate Trump and that blame Trump for everything are some of the most deranged people you will ever encounter on the internet because it defies all logic. Donald Trump is well liked in the state of Kentucky. Donald Trump is up by 30 points in the state. He's up by 30. He endorses Cameron, who was going to win the primary anyways, because Cameron has been an elected official statewide, and overall for a candidate you could run, he was a decent choice. And that's the way that it works. And Cameron being tied to Trump, if anything, should help Cameron to the point where this defies logic. If you want to say Trump is at fault, you could say, well, why doesn't Trump go to Kentucky and rally for Cameron? And that line of attack does tend to be more coherent overall. And is it valid to a certain extent? It might be. But at the end of the day, is that going to be enough to save him? I mean, Trump went to Kentucky to rally for Bevin back when Trump was president, and it wasn't really enough to get Bevin across the finish line there, to the point where I'm not entirely convinced that him going down there and sticking his neck out for Cameron is something that he wants to do, especially if he does that and then Cameron loses, let's say, by, 5 points instead of 10. It's going to be held over his head regardless in the primary cycle, even though I don't think it would make much of an impact. But still, I think that people need to understand that these elections, for things like these off-year governorships, where you have an incumbent Democrat who's well-liked, it's not really a reflection of, oh, well, Trump is bad. Oh, this is a Trump failure. When if the other people got their way, and you saw Kelly Knight Craft get the nomination, she'd probably lose by more. She's got lower name recognition overall. She's never won a statewide race. I don't think it would have really worked out too well. And the Cameron campaign is underwhelming. And there is time to potentially make things better and make it closer, but we're running out of time. There's only a month left between now and Election Day, to the point where, yeah, you really should be disappointed. But I did want to say something about incumbent governors because I figured this out recently, and it also is something that explains a little bit of the disappointment for 2022 as well, because incumbent governors are very difficult to take out. Once they're there, they tend to be there, and they tend to stay there with rare exceptions. And you could look at 2010, for example. You even had a state like Arkansas hold their Democrat governor. He won by a landslide, the same election where a Democrat senator got utterly destroyed. Now, here's the bottom line regarding this. You see all those red flips on the map? How many of those red flips do you think were from incumbent Democrats to Republicans? The answer is only 2 of them. One was Ohio and one was Iowa. And in the state of Ohio, you had an unpopular governor in Ted Strickland who lost to John Kasich, who at the time was a very well-known political figure in the state. He already ran for president, and he only edged him out by a couple of points or so in the state of Ohio. Portman won the Senate race by a lot more that year. And on top of it, the other state was Iowa, where you had the incumbent Democrat lose to a guy who was formerly the governor of the state of Iowa. So overall, both of the governors that did lose lost to very, very well-known individuals who had a decent amount of political capital and political acumen. All of the other flips you see on this map were open seats where Democrats were either term limited or retiring, and you saw Republicans pick off the seats as a result. And that's the way that it is. And in 2018, you saw the same thing to a large extent, except you didn't have as many open seats. There were less pickup opportunities. You saw incumbent governors win in places like Kansas, Wisconsin, Michigan, where Republicans thought they would have a shot, and it didn't exactly work out that well because there was some factor that was missing. Now, you did win Nevada because Sisolak's popularity tanked during COVID and it stayed low. And on top of that, you ran a well-known sheriff who was able to go out there and take advantage of the fact that the Democrat Party in Nevada is not as strong as it was, and he was able to win. So, while I will say it's disappointing with what's going on in Kentucky, it's kind of been largely baked into the cake, and it's very difficult for anybody to go out there and take out an incumbent governor, regardless of the state's polarization, just based off of the fact that incumbent governors tend to be very popular. Once they're there, they're there. And they're very hard to take out. And because Republicans have had that supermajority in the state legislature, they kind of run the state anyways, to the point where I think a lot of people just see Beshear as a figurehead and they don't hate the guy for some reason. So they just decide to leave him there. And it is what it is. It's not the best course of action, but that's probably what's going to happen, unfortunately, in the Kentucky elections coming up. So I will say the focus on election night's mainly going to be on Virginia. I mean, the writing's on the wall for Kentucky. If you live in Kentucky, still try, still go, get out and vote. Obviously, try to pull off the upset. But as of right now, Cameron is not favored. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.